Everybody, welcome back to UniXTCG. It's been a wild week since I last updated. Holidays, getting sick, and some unfortunate family news, but we are back and we are here to actually go over the OP05 Zoro breakdown. Now I want to let you guys know we have a lot of stuff planned coming for December. The release of OP05 is coming out for the global side, and I have a case that I'm going to be breaking down in a couple different videos, so look forward to that. Look forward to gameplay videos coming back now that the case will be open, and there will be of course all the decks that we need to test before nationals. We got a lot of content coming, and so I hope you guys are ready for the ride. Past that, just in case you're interested in other games too, we are going to be hopping into more Dragon Ball Super Fusion World coverage. It's going to be a pretty good time. So with that being said, I do want to let you guys know that you can find all the things we do on Universe X in the link tree below. We got the Patreon with articles coming out on a weekly basis, and currently an ST10 3 captains giveaway, so look out for that. And let's see if we can get this video over 100 likes. Let's jump into the main content. Alrighty then, so let's start this off. One of the biggest things about Zoro going into this format, now that we have the ban list reversed, that is the biggest important part. We thought that Zoro was not going to be able to be playable in OP05 because the current ban list that's going to expire upon that set's release hit Nami on the ban list, hit Curly Dawn on the ban list, and that in itself shut down a whole lot of Zoro's momentum. But as we all know, if you guys have been playing this game at any point in its competitive history, Roronoa Zoro has always been a big W leader. It has a simple effect that goes through a lot of different points of play, and first and foremost, they keep making one-drop searchers because one-drop searchers are the quickest way to start a deck and add consistency. So as long as there's a one-drop searcher in red, you now have to look at its package and ask yourself if it can be good in Zoro. So let's actually go over the one-drop searchers that you currently can have. The first one that we're going to talk about is Nami. Freshly off the ban list, as soon as December 8th comes around, Nami is so good for a variety of reasons. Just a play, one cost, 1k counter. Look at the 5 cards at the top of your deck, pull a straw hat type card that can be event or character amongst them to your hand that's not Nami, and add it to your hand. Then you put the rest on the bottom in any order. So realistically, what you're looking at here is that this card can fetch 2Ks in the form of Brooks, in the form of Sanjis. This card can catch all of your rushers pretty much. You got the 3-drop Zoro rusher from set 1. You have the 5-drop Luffy rusher that can ignore blocks for the 2 more Dawn from the starter deck. You have the new 6-cost Sanji blocker from the new 3 captains deck. You have the new 10-cost rusher Luffy. Sorry, I said Sanji blocker. Sanji rusher, and then conditional. And then you have this other one going in as well. So you have quite the card base to use with this deck. And Nami isn't just searching out your 2Ks and your rushers. Nami is searching out your defensive cards too. Annual Destruction. Nami can search out Jet Pistol. Nami can search out Guard Point if you play it. Nami can search out at 2 years if you want the extra search power. Nami can search out your 1 of Radical Beam. Nami is the key crucial part to Zoro starting next set. I do believe that with the Rush Sanji as well as the new 10-drop boss Rush Luffy, Nami just became the de facto best searcher in the game, and it's not even close. So yeah, Nami is just a good card. You play it, it takes another Dawn it takes another 2 Dawn with a Dawn under Zoro to actually get it to swinging capability, but we'll actually talk more about that later. So now you've got Buggy, next card. Now Buggy can't be KO'd by Slash, and that actually comes up more than you would think. Opposing Zoros, Laws have a rough time getting rid of it unless they can put Vistas down. So this deck has, this card in general has more moments of protection than you think. However, this character, I actually, when we backpedal Ohm in an L, can't swing on this. Sometimes people will get a little tripped up and they try to swing on this Ohm only to realize they messed up losing 1 swing because it's a Slash. But yeah, Buggy, when you play it, you search top 5 for an event card. And I do think that going forward, Zoro should be playing a fair amount of events. You should be playing your Radical Beam. You should be playing your bad manners course just to be able to ditch something that doesn't have counter and go up 3. You should be playing Diablo Jambe. There's a lot of cards that this card can search, and I do believe that it being a base 3k with an effect, with pseudo protection, it just makes it an unsearchable superior Sunny. So yeah, this is another card that holds the deck together. Now, this is a card that used to be in every Zoro deck, and with Marco at 1, with both Marcos currently at 1, and Whitebeard at 1, this is a really weird card to use. So we're now on Ezo, and you're just kind of sitting at this point where Ezo searches, but it doesn't search for enough, and I think that is what really holds it back. I mean, he's still a good card, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think the Whitebeard package is where it's at right now. But if somebody doesn't want to innovate, or if we get some other bans lifted, or maybe all the bans reversed, so we have more Radical Beams, so we have, you know, more Whitebeards, I do think that Ezo is going to be a card that you can think about playing. I don't think it's got the depth that Nami does by far, but you can keep playing. Now we're gonna move over to some of these 1-drops that make the 1-drops go vroom. The whole thing about Zoro is he has forward momentum. You play these 1-drops that hopefully replace themselves. Then you're able to play cards like Magra, which gives a 1-drop 3k power. That 3k power is gonna translate into a base 6k swinger for most of these 1-drops, but Sunny and Buggy can go up to 7k with this 3k boost, allowing you to get in some great swings alongside of your leader, and that's just a beautiful place to be in. Now, the other thing we're going to move on to is Makino, which is a just 2k counter, but also does the same thing with Magra, but instead of an on play effect, it's going to come in and have to rest herself to give something 3k. Using Magra and Makino aggressively, you're able to turn these 1-drops that already search, already fulfilled their purpose, into these bigger beaters, and this is going to come into play a lot with some of the matchups that we have, and we're going to talk about later in the video. Next, we're going to skim over real quick. We got Otama. Otama's still good, but red is in OP05. I feel that red focuses a little less on destruction, a little more on forward aggressive momentum. So yes, you still want to use Otama because Otama can be brought to your hand by the next card we're going to talk about, and she is still a 2k that is searchable off top 5. But also, if you do have to rip a jet pistol or you are teching Fire Fist, Otama will give you the ability to lower the range, you know, blow up 8Ks like Katakuri, or 7 costs Kid from the new starter deck. So Otama still actually has her weight, her purpose. Next, we're actually over on Curly Dadan. Curly Dadan searches out every single card we just went over, which, by the way, if you don't remember, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards if you're counting Ezo, most likely 5 cards because you're either going to be putting Buggy or Ezo in. You don't really have them overlap. I think Nami's a non-negotiable, but you're going to be playing a lot of 1-drops, and these will be all searchable by Curly Dadan. This allows you to make board states out of nothing, and you really do have to worry about that. We're going to talk about a fair amount of Sakazuki later, and we are going to be doing a Zoro breakdown on the Patreon in the upcoming weeks, probably after Enel, because I think Enel won on my poll. But Curly Dadan, just more consistency, just another card that you just play and you pick up another card, and that card may even pick up another card. So the thing about her is that she has great stats for it. With 1 Dawn under her and 1 Dawn under your leader, she is a neutral attack, and that's all you really need her for anyway. Turn her sideways, get in the poke, take a card from hand, or force a damage, or get something off the board. Whatever happens to her, happens to her. Next, we're going to go about rushers. There are a fair amount of rushers in this set. We've got the Roanoa Zoro, and this is the tried and true, just like rusher in the deck. You have the basic ability to play it for 3 and then swing with it for neutral on leader. And then with a Dawn under your leader, it's going to be a 6k. With a Dawn under your leader and a Dawn under this, it's a 7k. This is a very, very, very simple card, but a very, very, very effective card. And the whole thing about next format is that there's so much removal coming from the BDIF Sakazuki. Well, Rush is one of the best ways to work around that removal, because you have a card with Rush, you swing with it, and they can remove it the following turn. The issue is they've already had to use a card to block. They already had to use a card to combo or counter out of, or they had to use a card to, I don't know, just take life. They had to take life because the card's coming in doing its job. If they get rid of it after that, it's already affected the board, and that's the best part about Rush. That's why Rush is single-handedly the best keyword in the game. So yes, also searchable by Nami. Let's not forget that. Next, we're gonna move over to Rush Luffy. And Rush Luffy, once again, he is a rusher. He is going to come down for 5, so 2 more expensive. But the thing that happens with this guy is the turn he comes down, he's normally just a rusher. If he survives past that turn, that's where it's really rough, because you could put 2 Dawn under him and just start swinging past blockers. And once you guys start playing the OP05 format, if you haven't already, you will find that this format is extremely blocker centric. Sakazuki has a revolving door of blockers that can be recycled via Rebecca and Mancherry. And Nell has, it can use Brûlés, but it also uses Sanjis. It has blockers. Luffy is built, Purple Luffy is built off of blockers. You are running the Laws, you are running the Kids, you are running the Queens, you're running the Kurizumi 2-drop blocker. Then you move over to the red-purple hybrids, and they work on blockers as well. Blue blockers. Lots of these decks sit behind blockers, and Luffy is able to go through them if he survives. So very, very strong card, also searchable by Nami. You can't really disrespect that. Then you got the Sanji that came out of the 3-captain starter deck. 6 cost, actually has a counter, same attack as Luffy, does not ignore blockers, but he has an interesting effect where on play, if your opponent has a character with 5k or more, he gains a rush. So for 1 more cost, he has counter power and he has conditional rush, but this is an extremely easy condition to meet. So also searchable by Nami. Then last but not least in the Rush suite, we've got Monkey D. Luffy, which is going to be the new 10-drop boss card from the 3-captain structure deck. This card is such a menace because he changes the way that the field has to go, or that you have to, consider other cards. This is very much so, in my opinion, the very first floodgate. Well, not the very first, but one of the first effective floodgates. You can have a big board and you can spread out Dawn however you want. Or if you know you're not going to die next turn, you just know you can drain out your opponent, potentially killing them this turn, or just leaving their hand at 0 with too many threats on board for them to really. There's like just so many places this guy slots into. You can play this Luffy and then swing it with your entire board. And the moment they try to block, they have to lose something. This guy says rush once per turn when your opponent activates blocker, K up to one of your opponent's characters with 8k power or less. He is a huge body, worthy of paying 10 for in a red deck, and he is going to immediately affect the board. And if they try to put their hands up with a blocker, he's going to take something from them. And it's actually a remove too, because if you swing at this guy and they block, you are popping 1 card that can be as high as a Borsalino, like big cards. You can hit the 7-drop Kid. You can hit like huge cards with this. You can hit Katakuris with this. It's such an amazing card. 7 cost Big Moms. So you're going to be destroying something on the field, and then you're going to be removing the blocker. And then the other crazy part about this is that he's 11k base with a 2k or two 2ks, or a couple 1ks, or a bad manners. You can protect this guy from the only 1 to 2 swings coming its way that'll even matter. Sakazuki has to topple this guy from 10 cost to 0, or to 2, in order to take it away, and that's actually taxing. A 10 cost is not as easy as you would think to remove in Sakazuki, unless they're playing Mihawks and already have a Kuzan on board, or they already have a Kuzan on board and they have access to Rebecca, in which case, yeah, you can get Kuzan and you can get Hinad, or if they have Rebecca and a Hina in hand, the Hina in trash. There's multiple ways you can get there. However, it is not just an easy interaction for them to beat it. They actually have to start negging on cards in order to get over a 10 cost. And it's already, like I said, it's already come and done its damage. By the time you're playing in Zoro against Sakazuki, by the time you're able to play this card, you should be in a point where this card is either doing damage or it's wrecking 2 things on board. So very, very, very strong card. And the craziest part is if this survives and your opponent's at 0 life, there's almost nothing you could do in the game to stop a red deck, because that Diablo Jambe is coming in hot for the 20k unblockable swing. And that's just broken. So yeah, wonderful card, absolutely great boss card to be slotted into the Zoro deck. Now, when it comes to event cards, you got Guard Point, again, player preference. You got Radical Beam. It's the one of, it's so strong. You just kind of gotta play it. It's just that strong. If it gets unbanned somehow, then yeah, it's gonna be back at 4. Just a reliable card. And then you have got Jet Pistol for destruction. You can still use Fire Fist, but that really depends on your build. I think one of the biggest parts about this deck, between the new 10-drop Luffy, is Diablo Jambe. I think Diablo Jambe is officially staple in red decks. You need to have at least 1 copy. I personally like 2 myself, and it's just because there are so many times where this deck can put on the pressure and leave your opponent struggling just to maintain. And once they start playing blocker after blocker after blocker, they can wall you. But a single Diablo Jambe just ends their game. And that is why it's so important. So now that we have talked about all these cards, I think we can actually start going into the matchups. Lots of people are gonna sit here right now and think, oh, well, Lucci is in the format. How does Lucci interact with, you know, Zoro? Zoro plays the 1 cost, the 2 cost. Well, there's a really, really cool thing about this, okay? Really cool thing. Zoro has a lot of ways to play around Lucci. You have to get your board clapped by Lucci. It's just unavoidable. However, there are lots of ways that you can play into this. Going first is a little more risky because they'll be able to play Lucci on their 3rd turn, and chances are they can out counter you to fill the grave up for Lucci, or if they see brand new, they're set up for Lucci. However, at this same point, if you go second, and even on hands going first, the ability to play a 1-drop going first, and then follow it up next turn with a swing backed by Magra or Makino, followed by a swing from Zoro, is just pressure on a already small hand from Sakazuki. Can they get out of it? A lot of times, yeah. Will they lose half their hand trying not to take that damage? Very much so. If they don't take the damage, are they probably dropping down to 3, sometimes even 2 life? Yes. And you can get these swings in. If you go first, you have maybe 1 good turn of trying to chip off 1 to 2 damage. If you go second, it's even worse for them because they are going from 1 Dawn to 3 Dawn to 5 Dawn, meaning it'll be on turn 3 when they are able to rob Lucci you, meaning that you have your 2nd turn and you are going to be able to, you have your 2nd turn to attack them with the built up board. You can play 2 1-drops on turn 1, and then you can play a Magra or a Makino Magra if you have it, and then your leader swing too, and you can really apply the pressure. Once that ends up happening though, you have to start playing around these Luccis. You can't count on them to run out of the Lucci because they have Rebecca, they have Manchuri, they have probably 4 copies of Lucci. However, what you can do is to try to attempt to not get 2 for 1. That first opening turn, having the 2 bodies out that have already done damage, great. But if you have the field where you had 2 1-drops and a Magra, or 2 1-drops in a high roll position, a Magra and another Magra, a Magra and a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm so sorry. A Magra and a Makino, they can't eradicate your entire board at one time. They're going to take half your board. They're going to take half your board and the Makino. But you still have 1 card left over to potentially start the aggression with the following turn. And like I said, against Sakazuki, they can bottom deck your cards, but if they were rushers, they already done their job, and then your opponent has to respond to them. And the deck can be so saturated with rushers, you can put pressure on Sakazuki that sometimes they can't overcome, and then you just end the game with Diablo Jambe. So this is a whole thing to do. Leaving yourself in places where you can't be 2 for 1 as best as possible is great. Once you get to the Luffys, the Sanjis, the 10-drop Luffys, you're putting yourself in positions where they can only remove 1 thing on a board at a time. It's not going to be removing 2 5Ks or 5K and a 6K. That's just a little rough, and it's going to tax the hand. They can do that once, maybe every other turn before they start running out. They need to replenish using like a 10-drop Kaido or just, you know, like drawing cards over turn. So this is something that you should probably pay attention to. Past that, you have matchups like Purple Luffy. This Purple Luffy can high roll for sure. But in terms of speed, Purple Luffy doesn't really have destruction outside of Kaido in a lot of cases. And so in terms of speed, you are able to blitz them. Your board just builds and builds and builds. And what was true about Sakazuki is almost just worse for Purple Luffy. They will be able to build up boards, and then you just crack them with Luffys and Diablo Jambes, and it just starts to get a little hectic. And Nell can be rough, but I do think that, and this is a little bit of spice that I'll probably put on Patreon. And Nell can be fought with Zoro. You just have to you have to know the sequence, and you have to play in what I call tiers. You can't just open yourself up to boards that they can trade with swinging, because once you fall beneath 3 swings on an L player's life, you are not beating them. So you have to be cognizant of that, and you have to set up your board accordingly, but that's a whole nother talk because this video is already 20 minutes. And yeah, we have a lot of different ways to play Zoro, but I do want you guys to understand that it has a place in this next format. Zoro is not just ram into your opponent, pause. It's Zoro is definitely a more methodical approach now. Zoro is definitely a deck that needs to actually think about how it ramps up in terms of play, but it has gas and it is still my favorite deck going into OP05. So with that being said, I just want to let you guys know that we have a Patreon article that was another addition to Sakazuki. I wanted to go over more facets of the deck. We are shooting for an Enel article this Friday, and I think after that we'll probably hit OP05 Zoro the following Friday, and then we have so much content coming out with the release of OP05, so stay tuned for that. Thank you guys, and then we're going to move it over to the Patreon page so that the Patreon thank you, so I can just give a shout out to everybody that makes this channel do what it do. So yeah, see you next time. So as per usual, I just want to give a special shout out to the people that go the extra mile to help support my channel, my brand. Joining the Patreon gives you access to all the articles that I end up putting out on the games that I play, the deeper dives that are a little too long to put on the channel, and also contests or giveaways that we have, like the Starter Deck 10 3 Captains giveaway that's currently going on until the 1st of December. So make sure you jump on that or join the Patreon to get access to the articles and giveaways like that. And then lastly, I just want to give a vocal shout out to the 3 that are in the realm of X, that is BR, Bryce R, and Big Daddy Flapjack. Thank you guys for going the extra mile to help support, and I will see you guys in the next episode or on the Patreon. Later.